welcome to the Republic of Middle-Aged Men. Gentlemen, here we are.
Howdy.
Yo.
You may recall an episode or two ago I said I would have to go hat shopping. I went to a historic car meet the other week and I got a Triumph Stag hat.
I literally just noticed it, even though we were talking before we went on.
So I'm very happy. I used to own a Stag and it's nice to have a hat.
Yeah, for sure.
So there you go, hat accomplished. Right, so let's kick off with our tradition, drinks. So tonight, I am very lucky to have this bottle here of this Jinro grapefruit, which was given to me by my friend Todd at work. I'm drinking it tonight, mate, so thank you very much. It is a bit stronger than a beer. It's 3.7 standard drinks.
Is that soju? Mm-hmm. Is that what that is?
Mm-hmm. I don't think you meant to drink from the bottle, but I'm just going to anyway.
Yeah. You referred to it as lucky. I'm not seeing the lucky part.
Look, I'm not usually a fan of soju, but this is the grapefruit one, and it's actually kind of good.
Yeah, right.
So I'll take it. Lachlan, what are you partaking?
I'm actually having a gin and tonic for the first time in months and months and months. Well, in a Peroni glass, which is...
That's a toy glass.
Yeah.
That's false advertising.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. But no, it's a Aussie organic gin, but it packs a bit of firepower. It's like a 45%. So it's pretty punchy. But
Nice.
Good flavour. It's the first time I've tried it. It's very nice. Antipodes Gin is what it's called.
Beautiful. Ruben, what are you partaking?
I'm drinking a White Russian, which, I don't know, you're allowed to call them White Russians now. I guess the other name for it is a Caucasian. I don't know whether you're allowed to call them Caucasians anymore.
How about we call it a Vanilla Invader?
That's my favourite one yet.
All right, you're welcome. That's my gift to you.
Good grief. Oh, good.
Well, we have almost got to the end of book 2 in Meditations, which is exciting. So we're going to kick back off from book 2, part 16. So I'll read that out and then we will have the pleasure of discussing. So here we go. The soul of man does violence to itself, first of all, when it becomes an abscess and, as it were, a tumour on the universe, so far as it can. For to be vexed at anything which happens is a separation of ourselves from nature, in some part of which the natures of all other things are contained. In the next place, the soul does violence to itself when it turns away from any man, or even moves towards him with the intention of injuring. Such are the souls of those who are angry. In the third place, the soul does violence to itself when it is overpowered by pleasure or pain. Fourthly, when it plays a part and does or says anything insincerely and untruly. Fifthly, when it allows any acts of its own and any movement to be without an aim, and does anything thoughtlessly and without considering what it is. It being right that even the smallest things be done with reference to an end. And the end of rational animals is to follow the reason and the law of the most ancient city and political state. There's a lot there.
Yeah.
Starting at the end, is that like a straight up reference to Plato's Republic there?
I don't know. It feels like it is.
Because I remember we had that discussion when we were reading the Republic. It's like, okay, this is nice. We got all this discussion of what a perfect state looks like, but is that translatable to the individual? And it sounds like he's just basically saying, yeah.
He's like, it is. I'm on it. He's in a kind of weird position, though, because he's kind of the individual and the state, being the emperor.
That's true.
Yeah, it makes sense given the start of that paragraph where he's basically referring to if you object to nature, it's like separating from it. So he probably sees it as, the right type of state is the right type of nature, and being a part of it or not being a part of it would be more an offense than being a part of it.
Yeah, agree.
I do like the line there, to become a sort of tumor on the universe. I might have to pocket that away as a fancy insult for one day.
You're a tumor on the universe.
I could just imagine driving down the M4 and someone cuts me off and just wind down the window and go, "You're a tumor on the universe."
Well, actually, what it reminds me of is that speech in The Matrix, Mr. Anderson, where he's
Yes, you're a
describing humanity as
virus.
a disease. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we kind of get what he's saying. Do we agree with it?
Yeah, well, I think what he's saying is, if you're putting yourself out of step with what your nature should be, that it's injuring your soul. So I can understand that, and I think it's probably a very rational line of thought that you're not being true to yourself or true to your ideal nature. And that by doing that, you're damaging yourself as much as you are, becoming a tumor on the universe. So I think I get where he's coming from. So I think it rings true to me.
What do you think of the fifthly part, when it allows any act of its own and any movement to be without an aim, and does anything thoughtlessly and without considering what it is? It being right that even the smallest things be done reference to an end.
I think that's a very Marcus Aurelius thing to say, because he seems to focus on this quite a lot, about having intention and purpose for action rather than just sort of, I don't know, like lazy, thoughtless reaction to things. I don't know about that sort of necessarily being something maybe doing harm to your soul, but I think it maybe does harm to his soul, because he seems to be very to having very strict purpose for himself.
Yep.
So I think this is just his rules of engagement as much as he feels like he's failing if he's not, really pushing himself to have purpose in everything he does.
Yeah.
It's probably good if we could hold ourselves to that kind of standard. I don't think I'm up to holding myself quite so to such a high standard. I'd like to, but I think that's aspirational.
I think you might be right. I'm not sure whether I'm on board with the whole, tumor on the universe stuff. I'm not quite there, because for me, that comes down to nature and what it is, and is it necessarily good, or can it be corrupted? Can it be bad? Yada yada yada. But I think I'm on board for fifthly. I reckon that's right. But you're right. That's an impossibly high standard. Doesn't mean it's nothing we can't aim for. But
Well, that's true of this old way of thinking too. I mean, I don't think any of them felt like they ever achieved being virtuous, but they're always aiming for it. So, yeah,
Yes, high.
Yeah, correct. Okay. Well, let's continue. If you guys are happy to move on from 16.
Sure.
Yep. Okay, 17. Of human life, the duration is a point, and the substance is in a flux, and the perception dull, and the composition of the whole body subject to putrefaction, and the soul a whirl, and fortune hard to divine, and fame a thing devoid of judgment. And to say all in a word, everything which belongs to the body is a stream, and what belongs to the soul is a dream, and vapour. And life is a warfare and a stranger's sojourn, and after fame is oblivion. What then is that which is able to conduct a man? one thing and one thing only, philosophy. But this consists in keeping the daemon within a man, free from violence and unharmed, superior to pains and pleasures, doing nothing without purpose, nor falsely, and with hypocrisy, not feeling a need for others to do or not do anything, and besides accepting all that happens and all that is allotted as coming from there, wherever it is, from whence he himself came. And finally, waiting for death with a cheerful mind, as being nothing else than a dissolution of the elements of which every living being is compounded. But if there is no harm to the elements themselves in each continually changing into another, why should a man have any apprehension about the change and dissolution of all the elements? For it is according to nature, and nothing is evil which is according to nature. This is conundrum. That's chunky as well.
So, do you know what conundrum is? I don't know what that is.
That's a conundrum, that conundrum.
Very nice.
There. But
I'm going to Google.
Yes, please do. Conundrum
was an important Roman settlement founded in the middle of the 1st century AD, crossing point for trade routes. Most important cities in the Roman Empire. So is he saying this is like a important, one of the most important sort of points to think about in yourself as far as, engaging with philosophy and how you live your life?
Yeah, I'm just doing a word search to... I think you're on the right path there, from what I can find.
I can find somebody else asking the same question on Reddit without an answer.
It may actually be that he was physically there when he wrote that.
Yeah, because they're saying actually, he wrote a lot of meditations while at Conundrum. Yeah.
Yes. So that seems to be what it is. Look at us looking for a deeper meaning. He's literally just saying, "This is where I am, by the way."
Yeah. That was a note in his diary. I am in Conundrum.
Yep. Okay, so human life is the duration. Of human life, the duration is a point, and the substance is in a flux, and the perception dull, and the constitution of the whole body subject to putrefaction, and the soul well, and fortune hard to divine. So, what's he working through there? He's working through what is human life. It's a time duration. Substance is all over the place. Our perception of it is not sharp. And the whole body will decay.
Yeah. The constant flux of physical reality, I suppose. Never step in the same river twice. It's like a question of how do you deal with change, constant change.
Well, not only that, like how does it conduct you? I think like that's what he's saying after he makes all these statements is what then is that which is able to conduct a man. And it's like it's one thing only.
What then can escort us on our way?
There you go.
Right.
The answer is philosophy, said the philosopher. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that makes sense. So, I mean, you're trying to find your way through the fog of whatever it is, whether it's the physical or the or the spiritual. Saying you can't do any of it without philosophy is what he's saying. So,
Well, I think one of the major debates in ancient philosophy was, is everything change or is everything the same? Like, is the nature of reality, um, monistic, or one thing static, or is the nature of reality that it's constantly changing?
Mm.
That was like an early debate with the Greeks.
Yeah, because that's what he's saying. Like, there's no harm to the elements themselves, and each continually changing into another. Why should man have any apprehension about the change? So maybe that's his answer to that question: is he sees
So,
change in nature.
yeah,
So
you see, change as part of nature,
yeah,
and his presupposition is that there's nothing is harmful in nature,
mm,
so therefore there's nothing wrong with change.
yeah,
It's part of reality. It's part of nature. So you need to commit to that, or you need to accept that, because non-acceptance is, as he said earlier, to make yourself a tumor on the universe.
Yeah.
well, it's a very stoic principle too, right? Like, I think talking about situations and things like we would go back to Epictetus and like how you let those things impact you, and change is going to happen. How you interpret that's up to you, but it's still going to happen.
Well, I mean, that's, yeah. Even Plato was talking about that in the Republic. He's talking about these ideas of these forms that are static, that they don't change. They're the thing that doesn't change, even though everything else might change around them,
Mm.
and all that sort of stuff.
Mm.
And then I don't know. He goes, remember, at the end of the Republic, he goes on and tells that myth of going to the afterlife and you know coming back around and forgetting and trying again, which
Yeah,
sort
Yeah.
of provides a continuity for the spirit, that continues beyond the constant flux and change of nature.
mm.
Yeah, it's good. Good point, Ruben.
Well, yeah, because they were like quite tied up with that concept of the fates, wasn't it? And you know, each life you might be dealt a different fate, and
Yeah,
how you adjust to it is kind of, I suppose, like the lesson that you learn, right? You might have you know bad fate, but you can still make something good from something bad, or you can wallow in it and make something bad from something bad. I think that was kind of the point that they were getting to with some of that.
Yeah.
yeah. You can't change it, so just accept it.
Well, you just accept it, but also like from the philosophy he's sort of talking about here too. It's um, if you're keeping the inner demons under control and vice and all of that sort of thing, no matter what the circumstance, you can still be a good man in a bad lot, so to
In a
speak,
bad
right?
situation. Yeah.
Yeah, but you make the best of what you can, I suppose.
Yeah, it's interesting that that sort of seemed to be one of the tensions in their mythology too. Like, the idea of man and their destiny, and then gods and their destiny, and were they all like, what are the consequences if you try to defy fate? And
Mm,
can you? You know what I mean? Like, are even the gods subject to the fates?
yeah,
Yeah, it is a big part of it. It's what was I going to say? It feels they're the right questions to ask. Things can often seem like a big machine, and how much does our will come into things versus circumstance, and the timeless questions. Really, they're good.
mm,
Yeah, I think
Um,
that's right. I think they're questions that get answered and forgotten and re-asked over and over again.
mm. They just the same thing gets recontextualized, you
Yeah,
know.
well, just as you were saying that to me, I'm thinking of like modern ideas, like Marxist ideas and socialist ideas and things like that, and the idea that everything's subject to a power structure, and you're a product of your financial position, you know what I mean, of your class and things like that. Like, it's,
Of your victimhood.
yeah, it's
yeah,
kind of like the same question, but just framed differently with a
yeah,
worse answer.
Yes. Yeah, it's that old, oh, you've got skin cancer. Here's a gun. Correct diagnosis, bad solution.
Yeah. People die in hospitals, therefore shut down hospitals.
Yeah. Well, good news story. That finishes book 2. So now we're on to book 3.
Yeah.
So
Oh, wow.
we'll take that win. So I think it might feel a bit of a clunky shift because we're starting another book here, but we'll see. Maybe it's smooth. I'm just going to do a quick throat clearing. One of the guys I listen to, I won't say his name, but he just has this habit of clearing his throat and not muting his microphone. It drives me mad. Like when you're driving, because it's just so loud in your ears. I'm like, dude, turn your mic off for a second. All right. Book 3, Chapter 1, or Part 1. We ought to consider not only that our life is wasting away daily, and that a small part of it is left, but another thing must also be taken into account. If a man should live longer, it is quite uncertain whether his understanding will still continue to be sufficient for the comprehension of things, and retain the faculty of contemplation, which strives to acquire the knowledge of the divine and the human. For if he shall begin to fall into dotage, perspiration and nutrition and imagination and appetite, and whatever else there is of the kind, will not fail. But the power of making use of ourselves and filling up the measure of our duty, and clearly separating all appearances, and considering whether a man should now depart from life, and whatever else of the kind absolutely requires a disciplined reason, all this is already extinguished. We must make haste then, not only because we are daily nearer to death, but also because the conception of things and the understanding of them cease first. That's a bit of dementia conversation right there.
Oh.
That's something that I have actually thought of in the past when reading a lot of Stoic teachings, is what happens if you get dementia or Alzheimer's, or you just go mad? You know, how do you then keep using these strategies and tools and think through these processes if the mind itself is sick? So I think it's good that he's actually journaled about this, because it gives us some insight that I think would be easy to overlook.
Yeah, it's a kind of interesting paragraph, actually. I mean, it took a turn I wasn't kind of expecting, and obviously he's pretty famous for sort of, coming from the memento mori sort of side of things, treasure life and all that sort of thing. But to talk about that sort of like coming into that old age and maybe losing it too is a different kind of perspective.
Do you think he's saying, when he talks about whether a man should now depart from life, do you think he's saying if you know you're starting to lose your marbles,
to just pop off.
Check out, because it's going to be better than losing your marbles and falling into all these other things?
That was my read on it.
That's what it kind of sounds like, yeah. What else of the kind absolutely requires discipline?
I don't know how I feel about that. I have a friend. There's no way he would ever listen to this. But he's an older dude, and he's just an old coffin nail hard. He rides a motorbike. He had a stint put in after having a heart attack, and checked himself at a hospital the day of the operation and rode his motorbike home. Like, he's just old school hard. And he's, we've talked about death before, or just getting old. And he swears that if he starts going down that road, he's just going to try and Mary Poppins off the Blue Mountains somewhere on his bike. Because he'd rather enter the pearly gates hanging onto 2 handlebars and a ball of fire than have a wheezy last breath in a hospital somewhere. So
I understand the sentiment, and I mean,
yeah,
if you put that back in the like context of like sort of the more sort of ancient times, I mean, you were talking about Vikings before we were on the podcast, and I mean, for them, they wanted to go out and battle. Like, you don't want to
yeah.
grow old sitting in a chair and die in your sleep. You need to die in glory. So I think probably Aurelius is maybe still in that similar kind of mindset, if you know what I mean. Like,
I
not
think
saying
that's
that.
still around today. I remember Jeremy Clarkson once said that he wants to die a young man's death as an old man. And when someone said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I want to be 80 years old, but I want to die wrestling a bear in a nuclear reactor that's melting down and about to explode." Like, great answer.
Sure. Well, I don't think anyone really wants to die in a nursing home, right?
No, I was at
No.
one today, visiting a couple of loved ones, and it's not nice to be in, but you have to be there to support them. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't
I
want to be
don't
in
want
one.
that for myself, and I know no one really does. But yeah,
No.
I'd rather have 70 years of complete independence and drop from a heart attack than go to 90s and be in a home for 20 years just waiting in a chair.
Yeah.
That,
You're just going to
that's
take
just
up
how I
Skype
am.
at 80, mate.
Yeah, correct. So I don't know. But then I think about this, and you think, okay, if your mind's working, so if it's like your knees are shot and you can't walk properly, but you can still read philosophy, you can still learn, you can play Xbox. Like, if your wits are still about you, then 80 or 90 in that capacity isn't something that makes me go, okay, I'd hate that. Like, I could deal with that, I think, but when the mind goes and you just wake up every day, you don't know where you are, where you've been, who's there, like, no, that's not a good hand.
Well, I think that the message is like, no matter which way you're going out, is still memento mori, right?
Yeah,
Live each day. I think he's just adding in something else. Hey, you might still be making it into long life, but it mightn't be like useful long life. So you still need to make use of your time now. So
yeah. I reckon he would feel the same way though. I think if he could have another 5 years, but he wasn't able to think, I think he'd just go, "Oh, I don't want those 5 years in."
yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah,
I think that's what it's getting to.
yeah. I'll pose a question to you guys, just because we're sort of talking about death and whatnot. Because
Yep.
do you think that our lifespan is part of what makes us human? And the reason I ask this question is because you look at some of the stuff around um, the goals of transhuman civilization, and that by that I mean people trying to move from like physical bodies to consciousness on the internet, or for whatever you want to call it,
Mm-hmm.
merging with AI and
Mm-hmm.
living forever. And what the concept is, you reckon I guess like I'm posing this because I think there is something that we get as humans as part of the experience, because we have a limited lifetime, and that you know, we have to make haste with what we do. And just wondering if you think we'll sort of cease to be human, if that is sort of what people are trying to steer towards in the future.
I'll have a stab first, if you're okay with that, Ruben.
By all means.
So I've listened to a lot of stuff about this, but so Peterson, for example, says there's been a lot of study that he's looked into that says for consciousness to exist, it needs a body.
Mm.
A lot of sci-fi writes about that. Even Destiny, the computer game, wrote about that idea with the AI. The what was the name of it? It was the Russian AI in Destiny 2. They did the song. There's that silly disco song about it. Rasputin. There you go. So Rasputin in that game needs a body to like become fully conscious, right? So I
Yep.
think that's one side of it that the research looks into. But I would say that we're a spirit experiencing a physical reality, and so the fact that you could transfer, well, let's start with where we are. Chatbots aren't the same as the actual thing. So you can get a chatbot to sound like me. You can get it to give answers that are statistically aligned from a probability model of answers that would be similar to what I would say. But that's not me. It's a machine pretending to be me, imitating me, making mathematical calculations to determine what I would likely say. But it's not the same as me. And so I think that's where there's a distinction that I don't quite know how to articulate it. But even if there was a way to copy data from the brain and place it onto a drive, and then for it to emulate all of those other features, it's still not me.
Well, I guess
that's how I would look at it.
There was a version of this in, if you remember that show, better the book, Altered Carbon. And they re-sleeved the consciousness into multiple bodies so that some people, they called them the Meths because they'd lived as long as Methuselah, because they could effectively live forever just getting new bodies. So they were sort of in bodies, but it seemed to change them, and they stopped viewing humans as part of humanity and became something outside of humanity. And I was just sort of linking that thought together and just thinking that I think that finite life gives us something. I don't know. Rubes, what do you reckon?
Oh, gee. I think it's a question of I tend to agree with what Tim was saying about us being spirits who are having a physical experience rather than the other way around. But I also look at it through the lens of fallen nature of our spirits, in the sense that, without going theological, I don't think anyone really believes that they're perfect. So, given more time, do we really think we're going to somehow attain that perfection?
I don't think so.
And if the answer to that is no, then more time is not going to fix anything. In fact, it's more likely to compound your problems, which is kind of goes to what you were describing in that altered carbon thing. The people that ended up, the Meths, basically ended up becoming evil to any sort of, common view of their, their outlook. I think that's correct. I don't know, but I think that's where the discussion lies. Maybe we can attain some way of transferring consciousness. Maybe we can't. But ultimately, I think we're spirits, and more time if we escape our mortal frame without some kind of salvation, which is comes back to the Christianity question. You're not escaping anything.
Well, and you might be denying yourself the ascension that you're supposed to, work through in this life. You know what I mean? Like you have the experience.
Well, to put it simply, the Christian outlook is that we're fallen beings. God has provided a path to salvation, and that's through death, which is mirrored in the life and death of Jesus Christ, dies and returns, and if that's the path to perfection, then our mortal, to answer your question, our mortality is, we do get something out of that. The only way that immortality could possibly be bearable or be a good thing is if we were perfect to start with, and I don't think anyone believes that we are.
No. There might be a few who think that.
I think there's also some definitions that we need to nail there as well, because I think your question was around the human experience, and I went straight away to spirit and as well as consciousness, and Ruben went a slightly more towards spirit, less towards consciousness. Like, I think we need to, when thinking through those ideas, have really clear definitions about what we're trying to. I know that sounds a bit the Republic-y, but like when you mean by the human experience, do you mean that, like, are you saying that we're shaped by our experience, or that without the, like, do you want to restate the question, and we can define it properly
Yeah, well,
as an exercise?
I don't know. I kind of mashed it up a little when I was delivering that. So I guess I was trying to put across is like, is there something you gain through the journey of being human from having a finite physical lifespan?
Are
That
you
you
asking whether? Sorry.
if you that you would lose out on if man were to find a way to live forever, right?
If you're, and this is probably just going to make it even muddier, but if your question is mortality necessity a necessary aspect of human nature, then I think the answer is no, depending on what you mean by human. And the reason I say that is if, oh man, this is going to get, all right, nobody crucify me for this, but if our world is fallen and it's corrupt in some way spiritually, and and there was choice involved, then there had to be a possibility that that choice could have not been made and things didn't become fallen and would have been perfect, which means there had to be some possibility of people, humans, spirits, living a perfect life on this earth in some capacity.
I don't think you said anything heretical there.
Yeah, so if that's true, then no. The answer is no. Mortality is not a necessary aspect of being human. But when we say human, we can only really describe humanity from a perspective of what we are, and we are not perfect. So, I mean...
But I'm sorry to go down the Bible pathway here, but if my understanding of Genesis is that man was actually created mortal, and once they sinned, God kicked them out of the garden because He did not want them to eat from the tree of life and become eternal beings as sinful creatures. So, like, if you, I'll quickly, I don't want to say heresy either, because I do take this stuff seriously. But if we quickly look at Genesis, should be 3, Genesis chapter 3. Here. So Genesis chapter 3:22. So it says, "And he said, Behold, Adam has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. Therefore, now perhaps he may put forth his hand and also take from the tree of life and eat and live in eternity." So my understanding...
There would have had to have been a separate step of eating of that tree to... Okay, gotcha. I think I see.
And the tree of life is in Genesis and it's in Revelation, and it's also referred to in the New Testament by Christ that He's the tree of life. So my understanding is, from biblical perspective, which is the perspective you're talking from, I think, the creation of man was that we were created mortal but sustained. And then once sin entered via eating the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, then we were no longer allowed access to the thing that sustains us eternally. And so to your point of that it would have been possible for man to not have sinned and live eternally, I think that is possible, but I think we were designed initially as mortal beings. We were just being sustained.
So would that make...
So that would then make both of your things true at the same time. That the necessity of being mortal is part of being human, but that it was also possible for humans not to have sinned and to live in an eternal way, in a perfect way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but does that mean that if you're hypothetically, right, if you were successful in man giving man ourselves eternal life, that you're cheating God's intention for us, that you're actually creating hell on earth? Because I don't know, there's no need for repentance because you've achieved what you've been punished for in some ways, right, from original sin. So
Probably there's something in there, but I just don't think it's possible. Even if we were able to make our bodies not decay and live eternally, at some point our sun's going to expand and it's going to swallow this planet. Like, there's still other things that'll come get us besides decay and death, you know?
I think the thing is, if you're going to wind up trying to merge whatever you think your consciousness is with an AI, you're probably just going to become, you're going to lose yourself to the AI anyway, probably. You'll just cease to be.
I still think it's not us. I think it. Actually, here's an idea. I think that it's just another form of idolatry. I think we're making an idea of a god of ourselves and making it a physical / digital entity, and then saying that that's now our salvation and that's our way forward. And so, really, it's just a form of idolatry.
No, that's 100%. That's 100% correct, and that's even explicit. That's explicit in some of the literature where they refer to them. Well, what's his name's book is Homo Deus. I think, man God, making that they actually think the idea of transcending is to become a god. So I mean,
most of them are the atheists to start with anyway, who sort of subscribing to that sort of concept of transhumanism anyway. But
yeah.
Atheists are a dying breed. They're all moving to simulation theory. Anyway. Well, that was a really cool, fun conversation. I like doing those. Did that answer the question, though?
It doesn't matter. No one's going to know the answer anyway, right? So all we can do is posit the possibilities.
Well, but hang on. We can figure out the answer. So, A, is it possible for technology to make us live forever?
Don't know.
I would say no.
Yeah. You're going to be like Futurama, where you're a brain in the jar, mate.
Yeah, but I would say no. Ultimately, something goes wrong big enough to take us out.
Yeah, but you could be, interplanetary by then, so you don't need to.
Yeah, but another galaxy will crash into ours at some stage and rip it all to shreds.
Yeah,
like, it's coming. The death will not be denied. That has always been known. So, I just don't see.
Given a long enough time frame, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. That's why, like, forever. Like, well, forever means eternity. I don't think that's possible. I think you could make it a really bloody long time compared to how long human life is right now, but that's not the same as eternal.
No, you're quite right.
So, what do you think, Rubes? Am I being pedantic?
No, I don't think so. I think it just starts to get beyond. I mean, it's fun to speculate, but that's really all we're doing is speculating.
Yep. All right, cool. Well, let's go to 2 if we're happy with that. I liked that. That was fun. That felt like what we should be doing.
I was going to say we should probably call it. I'm starting to get pretty sleepy.
Ooh, let me see how long 2 is. Okay. All right. Well, we can do that. But I reckon we do a pub for lots of us just quickly.
All right.
Because we haven't done one for a few episodes, so
We can do that.
I don't know if I've got the overlay. Let me see. I'll just use this one.
Almost just a real thing, mate.
Yes, this is true. Okay, so what do we want our Pub Philosophers theme to be? So we just talked about death and eternity and all those fun things. You know what feels like an eternity? The US election. That is going forever. Oh my gosh. And you can't find any information anywhere that's even close to useful. So it's just one of those things.
Yeah, there's a heck of a lot of news going back and forward on it, that's for sure. You could spend, well, you could have spent the last 6 months just paying attention to that, I reckon.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I did have something I wanted to talk about. I just remembered it came to me. So, Ruben and I have been playing this game with another friend of ours, and our kids play it too. Elden Ring. So, Elden Ring is made by the guys that made Dark Souls. It is a brutal game. But I'm sure there's a philosophy behind that game that would be heaps of fun to explore. Mainly around the grind and how just stupid things kill you. And the designers, they're just the biggest trolls ever. Ruben and I have done boss fights. We go in, we see the same pattern over and over again. And then we build for it, and we walk in, and a new spell appears. And it's like, where did this come from? Where was this the last 12 attempts? It's such a frustrating game sometimes. But when you beat it, it's so good. So I wanted to talk, like, so is that the magic formula? Is the magic formula that it smashes you and smashes you and smashes you, but you end up finding a way and then you win, and it feels like justice, you know, because it's such an unjust design in the game.
Yeah, I think that's got to have something to do with it. It's got to be hard enough that when you beat it, you don't feel cheated, but it's got to be easy enough that you can beat it so you don't feel cheated.
Yeah, but the fact that it does move the goalposts and does stupid things to, like, dog you sometimes is...
You're like, you're nearly there and not yet.
Yeah. Twice I think I died in a boss fight where I had less than 5% health left. Like, I just couldn't get the last swing in or something stupid. I did one where I did this massive special attack and the boss just jumped over it and hit me. It's like, what? I think that's what it is. I think because it's not completely clear, it feels like injustice. So then when you beat it, it feels like justice. And it's the same thing with that stupid NBA 2K23 when we used to play that. The game just cheated so much, and the programming was so dodgy that your player would miss layups and dunks and just do stupid things to let the computer catch back up to you. So then when you would actually beat it, you were like, yeah, get stuffed, I beat you anyway, you cheating thing. It feels like justice. I wonder if that's actually the secret ingredient for a game to be really good, is that it actually has a measured volume of injustice built into it.
It's going to piss you off just enough to annoy the hell out of you without rage quitting. So you've just got enough to be able to finish it off and get the satisfaction of the win, huh?
Well, I think the other thing it does right is there's always different ways you can go about beating it. There's not one way. So when you do actually find a way to beat it, you feel like you've actually, like you've achieved something. You've actually come up with something. In reality, it's probably nothing new. Like, they've probably thought of it ahead of time, but like it gives you room for creativity, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Freedom in a framework.
Freedom in a framework. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. What are you playing, Lachlan? You're doing Valhalla again, aren't you?
I have been doing Valhalla, but I've also been playing a bit of Space Marine, or Space Marine 2, whatever it is. So
I think I'm 3 levels into that game. That's okay. I like the swarm effects. I don't like the lack of customization.
Yeah, I haven't played a heck of a lot. I got a bit into it and then just came across something that I just kept getting smashed on. And I think I had like 4 attempts and then put it down for a bit, and I'll come back to you later.
It's not in like the second level, is it?
Nah, it's it's not that far in. I think it's like where there's some like antennas. You've got to like.
Yep.
Uh,
I know the spot. One of my friends was getting very ragey doing that.
Oh man, the shit's hard with it.
Yeah.
So
you've got to use grenades and duck and roll, bro. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting the irrits, but yeah, that was that. But yeah, I had been playing Valhalla back through because I don't know. I've been going back and revisiting all the old Assassin's Creed stuff. So
my daughter started playing Assassin's Creed 1.
Oh wow!
So I've been helping her work her way through that. It's still one of my favorites. I love that one. And apparently they're going to remake it for 20 years. Is the rumor on the streets, but with Unreal 5 and all new mechanics and stuff.
That would be awesome because it was a cool story. Yeah. And I like the setting of it, but I don't know that I could go back and try and play it again. I think the mechanics would drive me crazy at this point in time.
I love them because they were just like Dark Souls, really, really hard to master. And but if you invested the time, you could be dangerous in that game. It was good fun.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll wrap it up. And for those listening, remember, the Republic wasn't built in a day, and neither middle-aged men. Lachlan, Ruben, thank you very much for tonight. It was good fun. Ruben, get some sleep. You look tired. I'll catch you all later. Bye.
All right, John. See ya.
See you. Bye.